Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelly and I am so glad you guys are here. Today I thought I would revisit kind of a theme that I did a while back, and I have these three palettes that are largely the same palette. One of them is a Makeup Revolution palette. This one's just called Reloaded Division. Looks like this. Beautiful, grungy-ish fall colors, in my opinion. Not really this time of year, but might as well play with it. And then there's another one that's from W7. It's called On the Rocks, and it looks like that. If you didn't know any better, you'd say that they were pretty much exactly the same palette. Finally, I had an opportunity to pick up the original, authentic inspiration color story for it. This is the ABH Subculture palette, and it looks like this. So exactly the same color story. Probably can't really dupe the formulas. A year ago, I think I did 4 looks with this ABH Subculture palette. And also a year ago, I did about 4 looks with the On the Rocks palette from W7. So both of these have had 4 looks already, but I haven't compared the two of them. I kind of want to do 2 looks using the ABH Authentic palette. One will do 1 look with the W7 On the Rocks, and the other one will do a look with the Makeup Revolution Division palette. And let's see, so we're gonna do 2 looks today, 2 different, maybe color stories. Let's try that. I'll use the same brushes each time, and I'll do a color switch in between so that we can get the closest application possible. I guess let's just zoom in and get to work. Okay, pretty close. I think that's good enough for now. ABH palette has this beautiful velour type component with a recessed subculture on it, as well as a recessed Anastasia Beverly Hills label on it. Inside you do have a mirror, you do have a dual-sided brush, I guess we can use it, and it comes with 14 colors, 3 of which are shimmers. And that's exciting to me because I don't like palettes that are too heavy into the shimmers. I like some shimmer, don't get me wrong, I like some metallics and some iridescence and some little sparkly bits, but on an everyday normal basis, I don't really require it. We're gonna do the ABH on this side. That might be different. I think I do the high end on this side, but we're gonna do the ABH on I got a little emerald on today. We'll do it on the emerald side. So I'm gonna start with this shade right here on the fluffy side of the brush, which looks like a good transition shade, a little bit of kick up. As far as eyelid primer, I didn't really put any on. I have the dregs of whatever foundation and such that were on my brush. Okay, so that bone shade, Dawn, barely discernible on my eye. Let's switch the brush off. What are we doing first? Let's do the W7 because I actually really liked the W7 brand, and you can see I've used this one quite a bit. So we're gonna grab that same shade. These seem to be laid out exactly the same. We do have, I mean, really the closest to it. This one's not called the same thing. This one's called Moscato. What's the name of this? On the Rocks. Neutrals on Ice. Okay, but yeah, they look like they're laid out exactly the same. Same amount of kick up, I would say. At first application, I'm gonna say that the W7 looks like it might have a little bit more pigment to it. So I'm gonna clean the brush back off, go back into the same Dawn shade in the ABH palette, and without really dusting it off this time, I'm just gonna kind of go back over it. Okay, not that far off, actually. It looks like a pretty good shade match here. Okay, cleaning the brush off. Might come back into it, especially if I do any kind of buffing and smoothing and all that sort of stuff. Gonna grab another brush here, and we're using the ABH on this side. I have to remember to keep it keep it straight here. This is an interesting palette because while I love the colors individually, it's sometimes hard to kind of mentally picture how to lay them all out. So if I look at things in terms of squares, that one maybe, yeah, I can see that. This one starts to look a little almost rainbowy. That one may be a little bit better. That one, that one, If I go down a row, I'm just not getting a clear picture in my head of what I want the colors to look like on my eyes. So I think I'm just gonna kind of stick to, this this quad right here. So I'm gonna go into the green. This is probably a little bit fluffier brush than I need to. Yeah, this is the ABH side. So I'm gonna start kind of in my crease, and then we'll just kind of distribute it from there. It's going on very smooth. We're not here to really talk about the quality of the product because it's really hard to compare the two. This one, can I tell where it's made? On the ABH palette, it is made in the USA, and I like that green. I think we're gonna leave well enough alone with that. Okay, cleaning off the brush. And we're going into the W7 palette. The W7 palette says it's developed in London but made in the PRC. I'm guessing just one of the labs there that likes to do eyeshadows for brands. So we're gonna grab the green on this one. This one's called Martini Olive, and on the Subculture palette it was called Destiny. This is my W7 side. I feel like on initial application, is it coming across more yellow than the ABH? To build that one up just a little bit. Okay, I think after I got it on, I barely can tell, in this lighting anyway, that this one looks slightly more blue, and I'm gonna go back into it, and this one looks slightly more yellow. And it was a clean brush. It was, yeah, that one definitely feels a little bit on the blue green side, if you guys know what I mean, versus this one feels like it's a little bit more on the yellow green side. Back on the ABH side, we're gonna grab the matte brown down here in a square, and this one is called Fudge. So I used Dawn, Destiny, and Fudge. That down low. I don't really want to muddy it up too much, so I'm going to keep it down in the corner on that lid just a little bit. And you're like, hey, it's brown. I think I've redeveloped my love affair with brown eyeshadow lately. Are you guys the same at all? I come on here and I sometimes do more colors, but in my daily life, it tends to be a lot of browns lately. Okay, and so I flipped the brush. I cleaned off the brush, but I'm flipping it over, and I'm grabbing the brown in the W7 palette. This one's called Bloody Mary. I almost think of Bloody Marys as being more red. I wouldn't have thought to name a brown eyeshadow Bloody Mary. That one seems a lot more sheer. I'm cleaning the brush off just to make sure I don't have anything. And it is coming up. It's not like it's hard panned or anything. All right, so I'm trying to pack in that brown a little bit extra just to kind of reach the saturation level. Doesn't seem to really be cooperating all that much. A little lighter. I feel like I didn't have to go in nearly as much on the ABH side. Let's grab this green shimmer right here, and it's very creamy, almost presses in too much. It's called Electric. I'm gonna start with it just on the center of my lid. I'm gonna probably take a brush and distribute it. Wow, that's almost a neon color. Okay. I'm going to actually take, so this is the ABH brush. This is the flat side brush that I haven't used yet. And I'm just going to kind of buff that in. I didn't want it to be like a full on super brilliant. I like the way those colors are coming together. Yeah, super pretty. Okay, let's clean out the brush. Finger seems to be relatively clean. We're going to go into Champagne Toast on W7. This is nowhere near as creamy. Nowhere near. Putting a little bit more on because I feel like it's not getting, I don't get quite the brilliance that I got with the ABH stuff. I'm just building it up a little bit. Can't get it to match a little bit more. It just really doesn't want to match, does it? All right, I need a kind of a fluffier brush. Let's do a little bit of blending in here. Again, this is the W7 side. And then cleaning off the brush, and we're a little bit on the H side. I feel like I didn't get quite the pop over here. Trying really hard to match them up. I do feel like I lost that brown again. It just didn't give me quite as much of a pop. Where on the ABH side, I mean, I've applied it once. Hard to compare the quality. Really hard to compare that. Getting hard to compare the color story. Let's grab another color for down below. What do I want to put down here? You know what? I'm gonna go into this peachy color down here. I know that seems a little strange, but I've really been enjoying lighter colors under my eyes, not have them be quite so small, and sometimes using a little bit different of a color can be fun. All right, grabbing, this one's called Body Shot, and that one seems to be pretty nice actually. Now, I'm getting a lot of kick up in them, so I'm a little concerned I'm gonna get into my contacts. But tone-wise, I think they're very similar. So let's put some makeup or some mascara on really fast. I feel like I probably could have done a little eyeliner on, but I'm just gonna take this off and we're gonna try the other palette anyway. So I hope you guys at least got the idea here. I would say that using the ABH palette, I'm glad I have this in my collection now because the colors are so much more vibrant and pigmented. And even though it's a little bit of a challenging palette to kind of come through what you would like to do with color combination, I think that they perform really well. That acid green, gorgeous. This side, on the W7, now this might be my first, I don't want to call it a disappointment because I do like the color combinations and the look. I felt like the brown and the green shimmer, the kind of the acid green shimmer, the yellowish green, didn't really perform as well as I kind of expected it to. I think that the brown you barely see, it just went on so subtle and so sheer. And the same thing with the shimmer. It felt different in the pan. It didn't have that creamy consistency that I got from the ABH palette. This is a much more muted. So can you get the same color story with both of these palettes? Yeah. No one's gonna look at me right now and say, oh yeah, she's using the same palette. They're gonna say, wait, there's something different, there's something a little off. She wiped off some of this eyeshadow. That's what people are gonna say. So, speaking of wiping off eyeshadow, let me take this off and then we'll come back and play with the Make Revolution palette. Be right back. Got my under eyes patched up a little bit. Sticking to a theme, we're gonna stick with the ABH side on this one. Kind of think I want to go with this gray. Let's just try this gray to start with. Looks on. Oh, it's actually a really pretty, almost like a sable color, if that makes sense. It's like gray, but a little little, it feels like it's a little maybe brown in the gray. I kind of buff that out a little bit here. I don't want to go too high, but yeah, I like that shade a lot. I can see using that and not much more for like a work look. Okay, going into the Makeup Revolution side, this is, again, is the Reloaded Division. And they're not laid out exactly the same. This one gives you 3 rows as opposed to 2, but you can kind of figure out sort of where they're supposed to be. So I've cleaned off the brush a little bit, and I'm going into the gray on this side. A little bit more kick up than I think on the ABH side, and a little bit more pigmented too. So I must have, I think what it is, maybe not necessarily more pigmented, because I did have to work a little bit to shear out the ABH side, but I think what it is I think the Makeup Revolution's maybe looser packed. You guys tell me if you understand or if I'm off base, but I feel like it's maybe not as tightly packed, which means you pick up more product when you go to put it on. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I didn't get any of these things in PR. Nobody's paying me to give you my opinion or to give you a favorable opinion of it. I'm literally just sort of sharing my experiences as a lady of a certain age playing with makeup, wanting to know if can we get the same thing for a cheaper price, and does it make sense to go the cheaper route? Okay, I feel like they both got a little patchy on me. I just cleaned off the brush a little bit, but I haven't picked up any more product. And it could be maybe that the foundation was a little tacky still, although I didn't think I put that much on. And then I cleaned off the brush to kind of smooth out here. I'm not so specific right now about the patchiness because I am going to be layering shadows, but it's kind of a good indicator. They both had a similar amount of patchiness. This one feels a little lighter. It might grab a little tiny bit more and try to match. Tone-wise, I think it's a pretty good match. Yeah, I probably have a little bit more dark, but I am seeing some patchiness over here. Yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of patchiness on both sides, and it must be, I bet if I would have used an eyelid primer and let it dry down a little bit, I wouldn't be having that appearance issue. I'm gonna grab this purple on the ABH palette. I'm using the same brush. Probably could have changed brushes here. And I'm taking this up a little higher than I did. I'm not as worried about this getting muddy, packing on the shadow up. I only dipped in one time. Now I'm going to flip my brush over and smooth out that edge here to get a little bit more of a cleaner blend. Yeah, super saturated. Really like that, actually. Didn't know I was doing purple. Now I'm doing purple. Okay, cleaning off that same brush again. I believe this is the match right here. Just see. I'm trying to decide if I can tell any difference. I have had to pick up quite a bit more product just because I wanted to sort of match the opacity. Flipping the brush a bit, blending up that top ledge. Feel like the ABH went on a lot darker. I'm gonna grab a cleaner brush here. And I didn't go back into the ABH side. I picked up product one time, applied it. Now I feel like I need to go back in on the Makeup Revolution side. I think purples, if I recall, I think I've heard that they're very difficult to formulate. Comparing color more than anything, I feel like it's a little sheer on the Makeup Revolution side and a lot more pigmented on the Anastasia side. I'm gonna take this so that one was called Rowdy. The first one I used was Mercury, then Rowdy. Now I'm gonna take All Star, the ABH side, all over my movable lid. This is a beautiful like burgundy plummy color. All right, you guys, I gotta be honest, I didn't go back and watch people's old reviews on the ABH Subculture palette. I don't recall it being like a standout, like everybody was obsessed with this palette. Blend it in here a little bit with a clean brush. I feel like maybe there was some controversy around it. I'm getting some patchiness, to be totally honest. I like the saturation of color, I think is beautiful, but the actual quality of the palette itself, I don't know. Let me clean off the brush again, and we'll go into the Makeup Revolution side and grab plumbing color over here, and we'll just see if we can't match up the kind of bruised look on both sides. So we're trying to see, oh wow, there is so much kick up in this palette. You guys probably can't see that. There's so much, and it's significantly sheerer than the ABH palette color-wise. Now, tone-wise, it's almost hard to match because this side I feel like it really got patchy, and this side feels like it's almost even like a smoother blend with a little bit of patchiness. It just didn't get the opacity that I got on this one. So here's what I normally do with any kind of patchy eyeshadow situation is I grab a shimmer. This one we're going to grab the bronze color. Again, super creamy. This one's called Adorn. Might have even been too much here. How to get it out. Well, I'm gonna pat on the back of my hand to try to get some of it removed here a little bit. And we're gonna take that right over the top. There's some of the patchiness. Grab my cleanish brush. It's pretty. Don't get me wrong. I think I was able to get it to work here. Grabbing that same bronze companion shade over here on the Makeup Revolution side. It does feel creamier than what I got from the W7. However, it's barely showing up. Doesn't seem to be hard panned. Interesting. So I'm going to say the ABH shimmers are the winner across both palettes. Okay. And because I can't leave well enough, I'm going to go ahead and grab this teal in here on a flat, firm brush on the ABH side. We're down here and cleaning off the brush. I'm guessing that's supposed to be this one right here. This one almost looks black or charcoal gray. Blinking a little bit. It's not coming across as super pigmented. Oh, got a little bit more on there. It is not the same blue shade at all. It's a deviation from the deviation from the theme here. Clean off that brush here as much as I can. And I might as well go into this sort of marigold shade on the ABH side. Connect the two right here and soften it. And I'm just going to go just underneath it all the way to the out. Let's clean it off and go into this gold over here on the Revolution palette. Did people have to take a long time blending the ABH palette? Was that kind of one of the complaints about it? Just leave me a comment down below if you've done your research. And then on the Makeup Revolution side. All right, let's put some mascara on. All right, at the end of the day, we were able to get another dark, smoky, kind of a little bit more of a grungy look, which I think is kind of the whole point behind Subculture anyway, is just to be a little grungy. I do love this bronze shade over here. I think even though you only really have 3 kind of shimmers on here, you have this beautiful bronze color, which is what I have on this lid right now. You've got this kind of acid green, electric green that I used on the first lid, and then you've got, or the first look, and then you've got this iridescent, almost like a duochrome. It's like pink and white, and my camera's completely washed it out. I don't even know that you can see it. It's like a fuchsia and white mixed together kind of duochrome shade. It's actually really pretty. I think it would make a stunning look with, you know, maybe that raspberry color. So this is a beautiful palette. If you don't have this, if you missed it the first time around, I think it's beautiful. I'm a little concerned about the patchiness. I think I want to try it with some different eyelid primers and see if I can get it to behave a little bit more like I would expect from an ABH palette. And maybe this is just one of those failed, you know, formula things. Switching back over to the Makeup Revolution. I had the same problems, I think, with Makeup Revolution as I did with the W7 palette. I think this one, the component feels a little bit more cheap. It does have that plastic case that we're kind of expect with Makeup Revolution. If you can see, because there's so much kick up in these pans, I think they're so loosely pressed, they end up traveling into the shimmers, and this shimmer just, they just don't feel, they're so sheer. All in all, I think that the W7 and the Makeup Revolution palettes are very similar. I didn't compare the two of those together. I compared them to the original ABH palette. I do feel like the shimmers on both of them were a little lackluster, and I think you had the propensity to get them very muddied with the kick up that you get from the powders. I think that the dark colors are hard to formulate, so I think this one looks maybe a little bit muddy. This is the Makeup Revolution side. I think I got the same problem with the W7 side, is I felt like the colors ended up just sort of traveling into each other, and maybe they didn't pack as much punch, whereas the shimmers on the ABH side kind of saved the look for me. So I don't know if that helps you guys at all. Do I think you can get a similar look? Yeah, but just set the expectation that they're going to be a little bit more subdued. They're not going to be as rich. The shimmers definitely, they're seriously lacking the quality. If you like this kind of video, if you like dupe videos, please give me a thumbs up. And I hope you guys subscribe. Hope you guys are doing really well. And until my next video, bye for now.